Hi, I am Malory. I am 55 years old, and this is my story. I was born in Akwatia, a mining town, to a Frenchman named Theo who had an affair with Abiba, my mother. Yes, I was born out of wedlock, something everybody in Akwatia reminded me of the least chance they got. And my name, Malory, in French means ill-fated, a name given by my late father's colleague at his office. My mother came to Akwatia to hustle. 3 months after I was born, Theo died, and my mother raised me until she passed on when I was 8 years old. It was not until I turned 22 years old when I found the meaning of my name. When my mother died at 8, I moved in with my uncle and his wife in Accra. They made it clear to me about the rules in their house and told me I would not go to school. The rules were a lot for an 8-year-old to understand anything. So I was constantly beaten by my uncle's wife for breaking them, but not once was I sad because I was happy to be living in such a nice house. I did all the house chores. I woke up in the morning and worked around the house till night. I was treated a bit better when my uncle was around, but worse when he was not. It continued until I got to age 16, at which point they decided to let me trade a skill in hair braiding. When I was 11, I slipped and fell in the bathroom. I broke my arm and was treated at home. I was doing house chores with it. And remember crying throughout. And even cried myself to sleep for 6 months until my hands almost got rotten from water coming into contact with the bandage, at which point I was taken to the hospital. This made it hard for me to use my right hand. I struggled when braiding, and because of that, had to drop out after 3 months. Following this, my uncle and his wife sacked me from their house. I started hawking on the street and slept on the street for a month. A lady asked me to join them in their ghetto and help pay the rent through contribution, and I obliged. They were 5 ladies. 3 weeks after I joined them, 2 of them died mysteriously. The others accused me of bringing bad luck and sacked me from the place one evening when it was heavily raining. I moved to a different location to continue hawking hot bread in the morning and ice water in the afternoons. In the evening, I was a dishwasher at a chop bar. The chop bar owner gave me a small mattress to sleep on in a wooden structure behind her chop bar. Due to the presence of mosquitoes, I decided to get a mosquito coil to help me sleep better. I did not tell the woman because I was afraid she would not agree to that. Everything went well until one morning, when I woke up to a broken coil. In my haste to go and work, I did not bother checking to see if it was quenched. 3 hours later, the chop bar owner sent one of the workers to come for me. Upon reaching there, the room I was sleeping in was burnt, as well as half of the chop bar. The woman asked me to leave and never return, or else she will hand me over to the police. At that point, I wanted to run into the street to an oncoming car. I went back to sleeping on the street for 3 days until a lady introduced me to a commercial area where one can sleep and pay daily at an affordable price. I opted for that and continued with my life. 3 days have passed, and I could not eat because at this point I had lost appetite. I finally ate something when I slept in the commercial area. Now, my life was back on track, at least. So I thought 4 months had gone by and no bad news attached to me, I was grateful and at peace. There was this guy who worked at a shop close to where I hawk my things. This time, I was selling plantain chips and donuts. He had seen how hard I work and introduced me to his madam. The same day, I started working with the woman and lived with her as well. They had had a discussion on how hard working I am, and a yes is all they wanted to hear from me. Then boom, I began to work with them. She was into the selling of building materials. Her house looked like a palace, and I was always waiting for closing time to go home. That was the first time I sat in a private car. She shopped for me and made me feel comfortable. At this point, I knew if I die a happy person, and I beg God not to let any bad omen near me. Her nephew showed interest in me, and we made love. He was the first man I knew romantically. He took my virginity. He treated me so well and made me feel special. He suggested we keep it away from his aunt until we were certain we wanted to take it far. And as naive as I was, I believed him. We continue with the affair until I turned 22. On my 22nd birthday, he broke up with me when he got to know the meaning of my name. That is the excuse he gave me when we broke up. What else could he have used when I was a good woman to him? I was so careful not to mess up, and I even ended up having anxiety. That is when I knew my name means unfortunate or ill-fated. He Googled it and showed it to me. I was supposed to be sad, but I was not, because for the past few years, not evil has come near me. A year after our breakup, he died. Jujo's death was a shock to everyone. He fell ill and died within few days. His aunt sacked me from the house because those that knew of our affair said I might have cursed and killed him after our breakup. But I swear I never did anything to Jujo. I loved him too much to hurt him. I had to leave the place I called Palace and back to the street again. Yes, back to the street, except that now I have saved a little bit of money. Jujo taught me the importance of saving. Fast forward, I had managed to rent a place and started a small business with the money I'd saved up. And since it was my birthday, I decided to throw a party. Few hours later, after the party, a dead man was found in a house near my pool. People started trooping into my house, followed by the police. I had just moved into this house and barely settled. I spent the next 3 months aiding the police in their investigation, which affected my business. The autopsy report came, and the cause of death was overdose of drugs. Drugs he brought himself. We got videos from the CCTV from my house to back up evidence. I was relieved, and I swore never to have any kind of celebration or social gathering again. That incident made me depressed so much that I could not focus for some time. I was living life anyhow, because at this point I was tired. I took solace in alcohol. I could not live a day without drinking alcohol. I was turning into an alcoholic until one of my customers advised that I see a therapist or a pastor, anyhow, who could help me. I started therapy 3 times in a week, and I tried my best to go to church twice a month. My therapist, Mr. Darko, is a great man. I fainted one day at my shop. I woke up in the hospital. Lots of results were done, and the doctor said I have stage 3 cancer of the stomach. I have liver and kidney failure. Funny enough, I was happy about it because finally I could now die and have rest. The next day, I was feeling sad because I was in so much pain, and honestly, I was afraid of dying. I was still in the hospital. Few hours later, the nurse rushed to me, and I apologized and said the test results wasn't mine, and there was a mixed-up. She said I was just developing symptoms of ulcer, and a good medication could help. And as for the fainting, I was too stressed and hungry. I had mixed emotions there. I did not know if I should be happy or sad. I was discharged and started working again. I slept with my therapist on the last day of my therapy in his office, which was the last time I saw him. He was leaving the country for good to start his own practice. 6 weeks later, I realized I was pregnant. I wept like a baby because I was bothered by it. How would I tell my child I cannot trace the dad? I stopped thinking about that because I realized I could even miscarry the child. When I realized I could not miscarry this time, I did my best to get rid of the pregnancy, but to no avail, before I realized I was 8 months gone. I gave birth and named my daughter Blessing because I know the implication of names. As my daughter's name, so did my life began. Blessings upon blessings. Misfortune was far away from us. For the next 20 years, I stopped crying and smiled every day until now that I am 55 years old. I have businesses, houses, cars, good health, happiness, you name it. Though Mr. Darko is not in our life, yet we are okay. I told my daughter that her dad died. Tell me how my daughter finally found a man she wants to marry. And it turns out to be Mr. Darko. My daughter is pregnant for him. And she was scared to introduce the man in her life to me because of the huge age difference until now. How do I tell my daughter that Mr. Darko is his father? Thanks for watching. Your comments and likes mean a lot to me. And don't forget to subscribe and share. Also, I would love to know where you're watching from. I love you all.